Hello class, and welcome to section 03, which is about the distributive property. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to use the distributive property to evaluate and simplify expressions. So what is the distributive property? The distributive property says that if you have a number, so I'm going to call it A, being multiplied with the sum of a number, so B plus C, you can distribute that multiplication to each piece. So A, B plus A, C. So A times the first plus A times the second. It works the exact same way if it is a difference. So if it is subtracted, you end up with a result of A, B minus A, C. Again, the first two multiplied and the outside and the second being multiplied. Some students like to refer to this as the rainbow method because usually you see people using the distributive property. That's how they show it. Other students like to refer to this as the Santa hat method. If you draw a little line right there and add a little fluff to it, it kind of looks like Santa's hat. So those are just some fun nicknames that students give to this property. But again, what it's saying is you can distribute, you can multiply to get rid of parentheses. This property is also super helpful for mental math. So I'm guessing off the top of your head, you probably do not know what 12 times 171 is. But using the distributive property, we can break this down into something easier to solve using each separate place value. So we can say 12 times, this 1 is in the hundreds place value, so I can say 12 times 100, and that's going to give me 1,200. Then I can break it down with the second number, which is the 7. So then I can say 12 times 7, that's in the tens place value, so I can say 12 times 70, which is going to give me 840. And then I can break down the last piece and say 12 times 1, because 1 is in the ones place, and that's going to give me 12. Then you simply need to add up those numbers because 100 plus 70 plus 1 is 171. And when you add that up, you are going to end up with 2,052. Same thing works if we come over to this next example. We can break it down into the whole number and to the fraction. So we have 44 times 2, which is going to give us 88. And 44 times 1/2, which is going to give us 22. 2 plus 1/2 is 2.5, so if I add up these numbers, I can see that my final answer is going to be 110. So you can use the distributive property to break numbers down and help you do quicker mental math. Go ahead and try these two on your own. When you solve the first one, you're going to end up with 486, and the second one gives you 112. We can also use the distributive property to help us simplify when there's variables. One of the most important things we want to be able to simplify throughout the whole unit of algebra, or throughout this whole class, is to be able to get rid of parentheses so that we can actually solve. So the distributive property allows us to distribute this outside number to get rid of the parentheses. We can't do 2m squared plus m because m squared and m are different numbers. So I would do 3 times 2m squared. 3 times 2 is going to give you 6m squared, and then plus 3 times m, which is going to give you 3m. So that's distributing with the first part. Then we can look at the second part of the problem, which is going to say negative m, that negative sign, that subtraction is attached to that m. You've got to think of them as one unit. So negative m is being distributed to the next two pieces. So that's going to give me negative m squared, and then negative m times 7 is negative 7m. So now I've distributed and I've gotten rid of those parentheses. So now I can look for like terms to put things together and finish simplifying. Remember that like terms are things with the exact same variable. Remember that if a variable has an exponent, that's not the same as the variable without the exponent. because if m was equal to, let's say, 5, 5 squared is equal to 25, and 5 by itself is not the same thing as 5 squared. So we can't add those together. So when we're looking here, we're looking for those like terms to put together. In this case, we've got 6m squared minus m squared, which is going to give me 5m squared. And then we've got 3m minus 7m, which is going to give me negative 4m. And that is all the further that we can simplify this problem. Go ahead and try this one on your own. When you simplify, you do your distributive property first, which is going to give you this blue part, and then simplifies down to this final answer here. If you had the numbers in a different order, so let's say you had 2a squared minus 2a plus 16, that's the same answer, just with the numbers in a different order. So the positive, the negative, and the positive. So it doesn't matter which order you put them in as long as you had these three quantities. Last thing we're going to do is go from a word problem to a simplified expression. So we've got 7 times the sum, so this is adding, so 7 times a squared plus b. So 7 times that whole thing, that's going to put that in parentheses, and then minus 4 times the difference of a squared and b, difference being subtraction. So that's what the words translate into originally. We want to simplify that, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute to get rid of those parentheses. And I've got 7a squared plus 7b. And then I've got negative 4a squared, and then negative 4 and negative b is going to give me a positive 4b. Then I need to combine my like terms. 7a squared minus 4a squared is going to give me 3a squared, and 7b plus 4b is going to give me plus 11b. And that is our simplified answer. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Write it out, distribute, and combine your like terms, and that is your final answer of 11x plus 8y. If you have questions about this or anything else from the lesson, please let me know when you get to class.